Hey, thanks for joining me here in the Xbox basement, everybody. My name is John. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been giving me a whole lot of feedback about the new format and also about the camera angles and different things that I've been trying, so thank you for that. Today we are going to jump in with something that is technically not Xbox, but in a sense is very much Xbox related. If you guys are huge Fallout fans like me, you have most definitely seen this Fallout London. And if you haven't seen this, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I don't remember Bethesda doing some sort of Fallout London? And to go along with that, you would be absolutely correct. Because Fallout London is actually a homebrew, a fan-made expansion based off of the Game of the Year edition of Fallout 4. So you might be thinking to yourself, oh, okay, it's like an expansion like Far Harbor, or maybe even something a little bigger like Nuka World. And I'm gonna push back and say that no, this is a complete standalone game, even if it is built on top of and is technically a mod of Fallout 4. And this is not the first time, obviously, that we've seen mods to the game, and we have seen larger things like this with Fallout Miami. Now, I might be blowing your mind right now just pointing out that there's these massive mods that are almost an extension, almost a totally new game. Because I actually kind of stumbled across Fallout Miami when there was like a demo trailer that came out. So this was like a showcase that they put together back in 2022 when they were still working a whole lot on this game. And there hasn't really been anything as far as fruition for actual like play or anything that's really been put out to the public for Fallout Miami. This, however, is very cool and just shows how much people are still using Fallout 4. But let's get back to the point, and that is Fallout London. So while Fallout Miami is still in planning mode, Fallout London has been officially released. I saw this announcement on YouTube not too long ago and I was super excited. They did about a 15-minute gameplay video going through your initial setup, very much in that British-esque style. It is a very mysterious start. You don't quite know what's going on. And you can see right away that so much care and so much hard work has been put into this game. They've really gone a long way to make sure that this feels like a standalone Fallout game. This, of course, is produced by a completely independent team, not associated at all with Microsoft or Bethesda. So there are currently two ways to get this. You can get this on GOG and you can get this on Steam. And you will notice right here that it is totally 100% free. And I think that goes back to the whole copyright thing and usages of names. So like I said, you will need the Game of the Year edition. They do recommend some texture packs and some other mods to go along with this. And just as a serious note, here they have a polite disclaimer, which is going to let you know that Fallout London will completely take over your Fallout 4 installation. And of course, the Fallout London team has all the info you need to actually get this thing installed and playing on your PC. I wish I could express how excited I am for this. After accidentally discovering Fallout 3 on my Xbox 360, absolutely falling in love with Fallout New Vegas, spending an obscene amount of time playing Fallout 4. Look, I like Nick Valentine, I don't care what anybody says. And seeing as we're not expecting a really big Fallout announcement anytime soon, huge thank you to the Fallout London team for putting in a ton of work on this. I will put a link to their website down in the description if you want to go there and show them some more support. You guys probably saw not too long ago that Deadpool put out a brand new Xbox Series X controller. And at first glance on this thing, you can see, wow, that is really round. This was actually given away for free to go along with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, which I honestly saw a ton of hype for that movie. I was recently at San Diego Comic-Con and there were countless people dressed up as Wolverine and Deadpool. Now, as far as the character goes, I'm always going to prefer Wolverine Hugh Jackman to Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. But we're not here for an ontological debate. We're here to take a gander at some of the weird and wacky controllers that Xbox has been putting out, namely with this current generation. The Xbox Series X generation was the one where I really started to notice these kind of far out there controllers. Now you might be saying to yourself, they've been putting out custom controllers since the original Xbox. And while that is true, they haven't really put out wacky kind of controllers. There's been all sorts of colors, all sorts of different textures, but there hasn't been this kind of wave that we've seen lately with these kind of controllers that have just been over the top. And while you think that one controller was going to be good enough, that was actually not good enough because we got the Wolverine controller to go along matching Deadpool's fluffy rear end. Now we all know that kind of Deadpool's wacky character really facilitates this kind of cheeky controller, and yes, it is a play on words. And thankfully these rear ends are actually removable, because in general it looks like this controller would be super awkward to hold, but Xbox went a step further and you could only get these in a sweepstakes, which we've seen Xbox doing more and more with their consoles, with their controllers, with these extremely one-of-one limited edition things. And I talked a little bit about that in my last video, how it just kind of makes these things really unattainable, but this really piqued my interest and I kind of wanted to see what was actually out there as far as all of these limited edition controllers. And looking here on the Xbox One, there's not really anything like this. And if we look on the Xbox 360, there is still nothing that is really like this. Now that's not to say we don't have any really cool controllers from that generation, especially the Chrome series. And then you'll find these insanely expensive ones like the Sea of Thieves glow-in-the-dark controller that I genuinely didn't even realize was so expensive until I got it with a bundle of things and actually looked it up. But that is most definitely not the same thing as like the Sonic and Knuckles controllers. It's not the same thing as these completely textured with really odd shapes made for one-of-one on these controllers. And just as a side note, I feel like whatever fabric they use on here would make my hands super sweaty. Obviously these are things that went along with like big time movie releases, but I'm curious to see how much further they're actually gonna go and put effort into these one-of-one kind of controllers. And speaking of controllers, I was hanging out with our good friends over at Reddit and I saw this question posed to the community. How often do you have to get a new controller? I feel like the only time I'm really going to get a new controller is if mine for some reason just gets like stepped on or just completely mistreated, or there's something new and fancy out and I can justify buying a new controller. Of course, I'm the type of person who doesn't necessarily always have to have first party, and I will occasionally fire up my Duke controller to play on my current Xbox. So this user said, it seems like for me I have to buy a new one every 6 months or so because I get stick drift around that time. And I thought 6 months? That seems like a really short amount of time to have a new Xbox controller. So just reading through the comments, this guy said that he's got his same day one controller. I genuinely think some people are just too hard on their controllers. I've never had to replace one until my buddy borrowed one for 2 weeks. And I've kind of heard this argument against Xbox before, especially when it came to things like their Elite series controllers. And I will say, I think there's a difference between having to replace a controller and having a controller that still functions, because that's kind of how this controller is for me. A lot of the negative arguments are people going against Microsoft, saying that they build these things really cheaply so that every 6 months or so, right after the warranty runs out, they are forced to buy a new one, with the number one reason being stick drift. So that was kind of what I expected to see in a lot of these comments. And we did get some like this guy right here who says he takes immaculate care of his controller and still has this issue. And then conversely, the very next comment, this guy says he's never had any issues at all with his controllers. Now I think this is going to depend on people's own handling of their controller, who else handles their controllers, what you use your controller for. Are you constantly using it for first-person shooters where you always need to be moving, or are you using it more for slower paced games like RPGs? And I really liked this guy's comment right here. I used to think controllers were just badly made until I stopped sharing an Xbox with my brother. I don't think I've had to replace a controller since, and quickly realized what the issue was. Some people just handle the controller harshly and don't even realize it. And I would totally agree with him. There are other people in my home and they have their own Xbox controllers. I know that when I put my controller down, it is not going face down. I take good care of my controllers, and while not every single controller that you see back there is in immaculate working condition, I will say that I've actually never had any stick drift on any of my controllers going all the way back to the OG. However, I will say the caveat on that is first party controllers. So that is going to be our question for this video. How often do you replace your controller, and are you really harsh with it or not? Because in general, if we handle our things wisely, they are going to last longer. And speaking of lasting a long time, these brand new new games are coming to Game Pass. And you're probably wondering why I said a long time until you see this right here. Yes, Crash Bandicoot the Insane Trilogy, containing the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games that were launched originally on the PlayStation console, have now made their way to Game Pass. This is going to be along with Mafia Definitive Edition and Creatures of Ava, 3 really different games all coming out about the same time to Game Pass. Creatures of Ava coming out August 7th, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy August 8th, the very next day. And if you were around for the launch of Crash Bandicoot like I was, you might be really excited to play this, because this is a complete remaster on the originals. And then Mafia Definitive Edition August 13th. If you like more of a darker, grittier kind of style of game, I think this Mafia is going to be for you. I really like the storytelling that I've seen so far in this game, and I had missed an opportunity to actually pick up this game some years back, so I think I'll be adding this one to my already too long backlog of games. And speaking of more and more games, Xbox will be in Germany at Gamescom. Now, if you live in Germany and you're really into video games, you can actually go check this out. For the rest of us, they will be live from the show floor, doing a broadcast August 21st through 23rd. So I'm sure you're asking yourself, what is going to actually go on at the Xbox booth? Well, first of all, they're going to have over 240 gaming stations with over 50 different titles that are going to be either first party or third party partners. In their words, amazing photo ops and experiences, and specially constructed theaters for exclusive looks at upcoming titles. So if you've ever been to a larger convention, something like maybe New York Comic-Con or San Diego Comic-Con, you probably understand how big these booths can actually be. Now, most of these booths that you go into, they're totally about selling things. I actually really applaud Xbox for using most of their space to just showcase their things, because they will be showcasing things like Age of Mythology, Aura, Diablo 4, Fallout 76, the new expansion Milepost Zero, new expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, and the game I am really looking forward to is Towerborn. There are way too many cool things to be looking forward to. Stop putting out so many good-looking games. That's right, I said it. Along with theater presentations of Avowed, Indiana Jones, and new Starfield. Blizzard Entertainment will actually make their return to Gamescom, showing off Diablo and World of Warcraft. And you will be able to get an exclusive hands-on gameplay here at the con. And I just realized that this Creatures of Ava is an 11-bit Studios game. If you've never experienced this studio, go to your Game Pass, download and play a game called Moonlighter. Give it a playthrough and you'll know why I like 11-bit Studios. And last but absolutely not least, there will be a gear shop to get exclusive and official gear from Xbox there at their booth. And I thought this was really cool. They actually have a complete booth layout so you know what to expect if you're going in person. And like I said, we will be seeing 3 days of live broadcasts from this Gamescom as well. Really looking forward to what comes out of this, and hope to see a lot of really cool snippets and stuff from Xbox very soon. Well, I did have a game recommendation in mind, but in the process of getting that one actually loaded up, I came across another game that I'm going to recommend instead. If you like deeply emotional games that are all about the story, then Firewatch is the game for you. This game is extremely unassuming. In a very real sense, it is incredibly simple. The premise of the game is that you are a man who goes to Wyoming to spend the summer in a fire watchtower. And if you didn't know this, in our national parks, especially way out in the middle of nowhere, they have towers set up where people live typically for a time and keep watch for fires. And while that is the setup for this game, it is only a very small part of it. This game is very mysterious. There's a lot of open ends to it. I first played this game about 2 years ago when it was first released for Xbox Game Pass. I really don't want to give this away, but I will say Firewatch is one of the very few games that I played, beat, and then immediately started and played through it again. And that's all the news that we have for today. If you like these videos, you know what to do. Thanks for taking the time to check out my channel, and we will see you guys in the next one.